Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eero Teerikorpi. I'm the founder and CEO of Continuent, and I'm joining you today from my home office in California, San Francisco Bay Area. And as you can see, this is the view from my window. Not actually live view, but just the recent one a few days ago. California is still burning. It creates a beautiful sight, but it's really, really bad. Today, we are going to talk about MySQL availability. And we've been around since 2004, and we've always been focusing on single-minded on the MySQL marketplace and to provide solutions for continuous operation. Today's use case is related to Bluefin payment systems, and these guys are have been actively using our solutions since 2012. Bluefin is a relatively large payment processing and also payment security solution. It's US-based, headquarters in Atlanta, and it operates in 32 different countries. And they do have a point of sale solution and checking and effectively doing the payment processing and providing a security along the line for that solution. And during this webinar, we are focusing about exactly how Bluefin is using Continuent technologies. And they were pretty early adopters. So we started effectively working on this space 2004. And Tungsten solution was born out 2009, and Bluefin came along 2012. Before going into deep on the actual solution, a couple words of myself. How do I qualify to talk to you today about the MySQL marketplace, MySQL technologies, and solution as a whole? I've been involved on MySQL since early days. 2002, we got the crazy idea to provide a business critical, mission critical backend using open source database MySQL. At the time, it was pretty obscure and small player on the market, but it has grown significantly. Before that, I was involved with the Apple computer in 1980s. Also, I had a startup in US 1996 got involved with the mobile internet application, maybe 10 years too early, 2000. And then 2002, started working on the open source technologies and MySQL. I could be considered as a father of Tungsten, but then even more interesting, maybe some of you may have heard about Kalera. Kalera is a solution that was born out of our early entry in MySQL marketplace. Our first solution back in 2002 on was a synchronous replication and clustering solution. I didn't feel that was taking us far enough because we had always a global view with our solution technologies, and we changed our path. But the team that used to work for me at the time effectively went ahead and created Kalera, which is it is good at what it does, a local high availability solution, but not necessarily good for the global reach that we are always aiming to. And as you can see from my picture, living in the San Francisco Bay Area, I'm a sailor. I love to be on the ocean, heading out there tomorrow again. And I have a background in Finnish Navy, so I'm a Finn. That's basically what the MySQL got started 20-some years ago. So how does Continuent fit in the whole picture and marketplace? We've been seeing the rise, not only open source, but also the cloud computing. It's kind of interesting how those coexisted and created a whole new set of opportunities. And early on, our aim was to create a platform agnostic solution, effectively something that you can run on premises in the virtual environment and also in the cloud. And the whole goal was to be able to provide highly available, globally scaling solutions that effectively provides the basically backbone for many large online properties today. Continuent does not aim to be the biggest company in this field, but we have a goal to do and to be the best at what we choose to do. And that has always been and remains our goal. We will touch that a little bit, how we go about with that. Bluefin is servicing thousands of worldwide customers with its payment processing and payment security platform. And let's think about it. What exactly that they claim to be is a leading payment security platform. Our customer since 2012, and we have deployed them in a composite active installation. It effectively means that there's 2 or more clusters, each active, taking updates, and then we basically synchronize them on the background and create one cohesive front end for the application. Bluefin has 2 main applications, Pay Connects and also the decrypts. Both of these are powered by Continuent active clusters, and they have deployments in Atlanta, Georgia, and Tulsa, Oklahoma. There where the data centers reside. When they came to us back in 2012, so what do you think that there was a key reason why they chose to work with Continuent? Obviously, they already had chosen MySQL to be the platform, and they had hit some of the limitations that MySQL had. Was it around availability? Was it around disaster recovery? Maybe performance, cost, which is kind of interesting consideration at the time, because the alternative for MySQL at the time was either go with Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server to the more of a business critical things. So the option was, in some level, the alternative go to commercial database realm as a whole, or was it all of the above? And in their case, it truly was all of the above. And this happens to be the case with the many, if not all of our customers. If you think about that, the kind of a challenge, availability always remains the first core challenge. Whenever you have a 24/7, 365 operation, being able to provide solution backend is constantly available. It is important, and the same applies to whether you have a software as a service entity, e-commerce, financial services like Bluefin is at the payment gateway, telecommunication, or gaming company, or any other online property that has a worldwide customer base. There is not really any time for outages or even maintenance cycles. And then disaster recovery follows with this. When you have a local data center, you are always at risk losing the whole data center. We have had plenty enough experiences on that when whether there's a hurricane or some other natural disaster hitting US grounds or anywhere else, there is a real risk of losing a data center. So being able to divide between the multiple locations, it is highly important element. Performance and cost. Let's go back to the performance. Performance is one of those things that when you can do and provide load balancing and basically updates reaching the single primary database, and then basically reads going to replicas, you get the significant performance boost on the primary. And then when you have a multiple primaries, like in this case, then you have actually even more significant increase on performance. And you can bring those data services closer to your customers, thus reducing the latency, so that the response times become better and being able to handle higher number of transactions, both important variations. And then the cost, obviously, they kind of discussed about a little bit of that already. Building something on top of the open source is a significant cost reduction element already, but it's not still free. Open source is never really free. So you can choose to go different routes, but you don't necessarily have to pay at least for the license on the database itself, and then being able to expand and extend the footprint as we do, and we can touch that a little bit later, you can do it really cost effectively as well. So Bluefin's main challenge was around availability and continuous operation, and the way they chose to deploy this is effectively having two identical clusters in two different geographic locations, providing effectively a single view as a data service, but then a connectivity layer routes the customers based on geographic location. For example, if you have an operation and transaction taking place in Western US, you are likely to hit the Tulsa data center. If you have another transaction taking place in New York, you are likely to hit the Atlanta data center. And all of this is kept in sync all the time, and thus providing ability that should there be any type of outage on any level on one of the other data centers, all of the traffic can be converted into the remaining data center. But then obviously it starts from the availability, so that the local cluster needs to be operational at all the times. And Tungsten connector once again comes into play. It's effectively an intelligent proxy. There are three key components in our solution. There's a Tungsten replicator that provides a high performance intelligent replication backend. Tungsten manager effectively is the one that orchestrates all of the activities within a cluster. And then there is a Tungsten connector, which is then routing the traffic. When and if there is a failure on, for example, primary, our Tungsten cluster solution effectively stops all the ongoing traffic. You will not lose the connection on the application server, but the Tungsten connector knows that there is a lost primary database. And this kicks the Tungsten manager in action, and Tungsten manager knows which one of the replicas is the most up-to-date at any given time. And then that will be automatically promoted into a new primary database. Same thing effectively happens on data center level, but that failover is never automatic. It's automated. It's effectively one single call, and you can make and do the basically failover from data center level. But when you're operating on local level, it is automatic. It's fast, and during the whole operation, the actual client connections are maintained and reestablished when the new primary is in the play. And then on the disaster recovery operation, we have these two active data center sites effectively available, servicing the local customers. And you can set different kind of rules with the Tungsten connector level, which applications talk to, for example, which data center, or if there's a certain specific geographic regions. And if you want to expand the solution, instead of just having a one cluster pair, like in this case, two clusters, you can have two or more of these type of clusters. Or in some cases, you may choose to add additional clusters, like some of our customers have taken additional primary clusters in Europe and Asia, so creating effectively global backend for the multi-primary solution. Or alternatively, you can take it in such a way that you have these type of cluster pairs and you establish them in Europe and Asia and have them kind of local operations there, but they may not be actively aware of the other clusters. It depends on your goals and what need to share data might be. Nevertheless, while having this type of a setup, it allows us to effectively route all the connection in the one remaining cluster should there be a site level outage. And in Bluefin's case, Tungsten connectors have been installed on the application server, effectively on the web application. You can include these connectivity layers either on the database layer, You can put them in the application server layer, or you can put in between the application and database. So we are quite flexible. Once again, depending on your needs and what requirements you may have, we can guide you the best solution. If you have a limited set of the application servers, for example, just a few tens, it makes sense to have them running on the application server. But if you have hundreds of application servers, for example, you're most likely better off adding the Tungsten connective layer on the database layer, or in between application servers and database layer. All of this is being managed by Tungsten dashboard. This is kind of a view of and this is what we do on regular basis. That what you're seeing is not actually production server. This is not a Bluefin cluster. It is our own. We can deploy these clusters at will based on our own customers' configuration, which allows them to do and help the troubleshooting things. And I actually have this same setup running here actively. These are 2 clusters, and this particular setup is actually running in an AWS environment, but you can see how you can easily operate the cluster and see the status of the cluster. So let's go and try to replicate a failure event. So that, okay, let's go here. As you see, I'm not much of a database guru myself, so I need to have a helping tool for myself to kind of guide this process. But nevertheless, now we are going through the process stopping one of the databases. Let's put the refresh in 5 seconds. You can see that a failure has been recognized by the cluster. The cluster itself takes steps to promote one of the existing replicas and the new primary, and then reconnect the remaining replica with this new primary. But since we have quite a more complex setup here, we also have an active replication going between 2 sites. So there's quite a bit configuration taking place on the background. But even then, this process was in matter of seconds, and it was automatically detected the failure, and it was automatically then reconfigured the whole cluster. We could go back and look at what happened, but we know what happened in this case. So let's bring a database back, and so that in this case, it restarts the database, and then it knows what was the last transaction that was updated on this particular database. It applies any new transaction that may have taken place during the outage of the downtime, and it will be then introduced back in the cluster. And then instead of a 2-node cluster, we will have a 3-node cluster relatively soon. This obviously depends on the database size and the number of transactions has been taking place since the database came down, and then introduced it back in. So this may take seconds, it may take minutes. Once again, it's nevertheless, operation was successful, and DB13 is back online. And let's do the one more item. This really relates to online maintenance operation. While we have the system active and up and running, we enable and allow active maintenance operation. So you can effectively bring the database server down and keep the cluster up and running, update, for example, schema, upgrade for the database version, update the underlying operating system, whatever you need to do. And then you do that in a kind of in rolling fashion. And finally, when you are done, you can then basically bring it back online. And for example, in this case, we can promote one of the primaries, or one of the replicas in the new primary. And once again, this is fully automated process, and it takes a few seconds, few tens of seconds, depending on the database sizes in place. All in all, running and operating Continuent cluster is relatively easy, as you have seen here. Even myself, who is not really a deep DPA or site reliable engineering background, can do that actively and without much of an effort. All right, successfully completed, and DP13 is now back as the primary as we started. And in the meantime, on the background, all of the customers were continuously served, and the whole operation from the client point of view was seamless and continuous. Let's go back to presentation. One of the things, obviously, in database real is cost. There's the bigger database you have, a more transaction, the bigger compute instances you have. We don't price our solution based on any of that. It's just a database server. Whether it's a small, large, huge, whatever it is, the price effectively is still the same. Our solution is priced based on an annual subscription, and that subscription also includes 24/7 support services. And most importantly, our pricing is not linear. So that if you have a few clusters, obviously there is an initial cost associated effectively related to our 24 support services, which is a higher need. But as you keep increasing the clusters, some of our customers have now dense clusters. Few customers have hundreds. Single biggest deployment of our customers is right now, they have about 1,000 clustered MySQL instances, along with another 1,000 replicated MySQL instances using a replicator for the analytics and reporting and other means. So this grows significantly and from a flexibility point of view, but our pricing will not grow nearly as fast. It actually is at some point it's almost negligent, the increase on the price when you reach those levels. So as a recap, it is first and foremost about the availability, but in this case, financial services and being able to provide the credit card processing continuously. There's also the automated disaster recovery element. Performance is always concerned, but that only comes after, from our view, the fact that the system is actually available. Only when you have guaranteed that, you can start focusing on the performance-related aspects. And we try to keep it reasonable and fair from the cost point of view. Added here, 24/7 support services. This is maybe the single biggest the value of what we bring on the table. We have a tremendous team of database engineers, each of them 20+ years background, either on DPA, site reliability, or they may have a background in the specific areas of the database development. And having these guys available at minutes' notice is a significant value that our customers benefit from us. We have, besides the Tungsten clustering solution, 2 other products. Tungsten clustering, obviously, it is, once again, continuous operation, no downtime, maintenance operation, ability to provide and create the geographically distributed MySQL clusters. Good example is Riot Games. They have about 10 applications today running across the globe, US West, US East, Europe, Asia Pacific, providing game services, effectively starting with the account management services to hundreds of millions of game players. That's just an example. Other benefit is that our solution is multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. You can run this solution in AWS, in Azure, in Google Cloud. You can create for example, hybrid cloud deployment. If you have a currently on-premises deployment, you can have another running in the cloud. That could be as a continuous operation or for the migration needs, whatever you need to do. But effectively, we allow you great flexibility and run a solution in different environments. And then intelligent proxy keeps an added, not only is the cluster aware locally, but globally, and also it allows you to route the traffic accordingly through that proxy layer. Tungsten Replicator, it powers Tungsten Cluster, but it's more than that. Replicator, within cluster is obviously homogeneous replication, but with the externally, we can also replicate from MySQL or MariaDB or Aurora instances into Amazon Redshift, Kafka, Vertica. This can be used to various targets. It can be used for the replicating into different databases, whether it's Oracle, Postgres, alternatives. And Replicator has a great deal of intelligence. It has a really flexible advanced filtering capability, which allows you to either have a full replication, partial replication, pick the certain tables. You can also modify the content. For example, if you are replicating from one source to another, you can basically change the data type, and you can add comments, and you can do all kinds of things with that. Highly programmable. This is available as on-premises deployment, but it's also available through AWS Marketplace as an AMI. Tungsten Dashboard you already saw. This is the basically solution, the graphical user interface. We are not charging a penny for this. A lot of our customers still use the command line interface, but then increasingly people are happy to have also graphical interface. And as we are moving towards the cloud offering, it becomes more and more important to have easy way to deploy and view your cluster status and make the modification as needed. But once again, no charge on this great solution. Let's have a quick recap of our services. And you may be curious, kind of wondering why I start with the support service. But once again, this is one of those things that we ourselves value very highly. And I know that our customers actually value it even higher. During the past 2 years, across all of our customers, the average response time on urgent request has been less than 3 minutes. And every single time, there is a highly qualified MySQL database engineer available to reply your questions. We understand that our customers run business critical, in some cases, mission critical applications. There is millions, in some cases, hundreds of millions of revenue streams. That's those services. Having a solution available 24/7 is needed. Having a team available to support them is also highly desirable. In our case, many of our customers are measuring uptimes in months or years, so that kind of sees kind of how reliable our solution is. Cost saving is also important element. Many things that are open source is free, in just a large extent, not true. Obviously, you can get the software itself, but if you want to do it yourself type of solution, there is a significant development cost. And then maintaining those do-it-yourself type of solution is also pretty expensive by yourself or the outside consultants. And when the developer goes away, you are stuck. What we offer is more complete, holistic solution, fully tested, fully supported, and on the field over and over, demonstrated it works. And when we apply our non-linear pricing model, we, in many cases, actually can offer complete solution at lower cost that comparables patching things together from open source components. And then other benefits that we offer obviously comes from the continuous operation, ability to do the maintenance operation without any downtime, ability to operate on geographical scale, something that when you do it with the asynchronous replication, you can do. When you try to do this with the synchronous replication, it falls apart pretty fast because it's just the physics and speed of light kicks in, and when you have to do it in synchronous fashion, applications will fall apart quite easily. We've always focused on platform agnostic approach. Ability to run in any different environment is important. Ability to migrate from one environment to other. For example, if you were to move in the Amazon AWS and pick the Aurora. Amazon makes it really easy for you to get the data in the systems, but it makes it really, really difficult to get the data out from there, so that it's effectively creating a significant lock. None of that applies to us, and actually it is your data. We are not owning it. We are not ever touching your data. We are just helping you to manage your data and give you an ability to pick and choose the environment you choose to run. One of the key ingredients is that the Tungsten proxy, intelligent MySQL proxy, it comes kind of glues everything together. And many of our customers see this as the highest value as a software level. Obviously, we value it as well, but we see that the more of a complete solution has the biggest value as a whole, backed with the amazing support that we offer. And then when you have this really advanced replication technology with the filtering and transform capabilities, and being able to real-time take the MySQL produced data and feed it into analytics or data lakes or reporting, and you can do this in a cluster-aware fashion, it becomes an additional high-value element of our offering. Last but not least, maybe we don't require any application changes. We do operate up and down different version levels on MySQL. We support MariaDB as well, and for the replication, we also support all MySQL compatible solution. Our clustering is truly meant for MySQL, so it's a MySQL or MariaDB, and then Replicator extends beyond that. And you can pick and choose whatever flavor you want to use on MySQL with the Opera Corner server. One of the things we do offer is a high level of security components that the SSL is supporting flight. You can basically then also have encryption on the data level at rest, so that we have customers running highly sensitive medical data, for example, in Amazon cloud and fully secure environment. Another one question is that we are not actually running a poll today. This is one of those things that slides that I was hoping to include, but that we do not have the poll capability available. But if you are actively interested on MySQL availability solution, please send us a note. You can do that using the chat of this webinar, or you can send us an email and notify. Our process is typically that we have a chat with you about your needs requirement, and we have a really deep dive call to better understand that what you want to do, and then that will be followed with the free of charge proof of concept engagement and consulting engagement that we go through and effectively deploy your production environment ready to be used, and no charge at all. And if you still like what you see and do, then we forge a formal engagement as a form of a software and support subscription. Relatively easy, painless process, but we do it in a highly controlled fashion, and we are the first one to tell if we would not be the right solution for you. But if you are here just to educate yourself, great. Happy to have you here today as well. So just a little recap on Continuent itself. As stated, we've been around. We have a really deep knowledge on data application, database connectivity, and cluster management. Support team is highly experienced. Either they've been running a large-scale DBA role or site reliability environments or similar, or they have done active database development, each of them. And we are really proud the fact that we are, as good as our software is, our availability to help you is even greater. And we have customers who stick with us, some over 10 years, and we have an average customer engagement currently close to 8 years. We naturally welcome new customers, and when we forge an engagement, our expectation is that you would stick around with the next 5, 8 years, maybe 10, 15 years. So that's the way we approach and plan ahead. Some of the biggest properties that in the MySQL use case world are being supported and powered by Continuent. For example, the Marketo, as now part of the Adobe, runs a multi-terabyte environment with billions and billions of transactions every day related to marketing and analytics. Or it could be like Riot Games, basically whole game account management and related activities is being powered by a Continuent solution. And I'm sure you can see a lot of familiar names, and this is by far not a complete list of customers. It's just a kind of nice example of the various types of customers we have in software as a service, e-commerce, financial services, gaming, and telecommunication realm. Some of the corporate customers as well, that they're using Continuent solution to power their DevOps environment. And customers do like us, and most recent satisfaction level was 100%. I'm sure we can do still much better, but the fact that the level we are operating today is well received is great. And we can see this even more real in renewal rates. Effectively, all of our customers tend to renew. We lost one customer last year, but that was because of the large telco company's business units software as a service operation failed. So obviously there was nothing we could do. They were a happy customer. We actually have converted them from AWS RDS environment into Tungsten cluster earlier, but then when the business fails, it fails. Sometimes our customers get acquired, but even those cases, then many of our customers stick around. So we are looking for long-term engagements with our customers. We've been around, we intend to be around. There's a little sidebar note. 2014, our operation got acquired by VMware. You may have seen it, you may not. Idea was that we would build a database as a service for the upcoming vCloud cloud offering. But when VMware decided to effectively pivot and decided not to compete against the big cloud players, rather than add value-added component on top of those, then Continuent as a team and the technology and solution no longer was a good fit in VMware, and we spun Continuent out as an independent company again. And so we've been on that route since then. And in future is definitely cloud. 70% of our customers are already in the cloud, but they are doing basically manual deployment model. We already have an AMI available for a replicator and actually also for the clustering, but there is something called Tungsten Cloud in Horizon that will be more of a fully automated database as a service solution, fully automated and fully managed database as a service solution. So stay tuned on that one. All right, do we have any questions, comments?
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now, of course, by using the Q&A section of your control panel. We do have a few minutes still if we want to answer questions. There was a question just earlier around AWS Aurora, someone considering that, and whether you could talk to that and how Tungsten clustering might compare to it.
Sure, yeah. AWS Aurora is a great solution. Again, what is it built for? And it's a really excellent solution for for example, the DevOps environment. Running a business critical loads is a little bit more challenging, especially if there's a geographic scale. Starting with the kind of a whole notion that the Aurora is not MySQL, it's MySQL compatible. It's not based on the most recent release of MySQL. It's not getting benefit of the new features that what MySQL and MariaDB bring on the marketplace. They will come at AWS choice and with delay. That's kind of one starting point. Also, as discussed about, it's a closed environment. AWS wants to bring in the workloads there and keep them there. Understandable. It's kind of an old-fashioned, more of a vendor lock-in model. But even more importantly, a Continuent solution is built for the global scale. It's kind of if you want to have for example, clusters in 4 or 5 geographic regions, and you want them to be working in sync, that's not something that you can achieve with Aurora, having this type of a global backplane. Or if you have a DR type of a solution like what Bluefin is currently using, that would be really difficult also to build with the Aurora type of a backend. So all in all, we feel good about our position when we are thinking about the globally scaling, highly available continuous operation. One of the last things, once again, reminding that if you are Aurora user, you would be hard pressed to find a team available to help you in 3 minutes notice that there should something come up and happen, and not being able to just help with the Tungsten cluster solution, because in many cases, our customers actually approach us with also the MySQL related questions. We are not a remote DBA service organization, but the fact that we know so well MySQL, we end up doing quite a bit that work as well. And to some level and extent, it is included. We are not going to ask you more money for any of the services. It's kind of a one annual fee, and we are here to help you.
Great, thanks, Eero. I don't see other questions for the moment, but if you do have questions, you can still ask them by using the Q&A section of your control panel. Feel free to check that out and ask your questions there. But in the meantime, Eero, if you have any closing words, then we can go to that now also.
Sure. I think thank you, everybody listening in today. Should you have interest in what you heard today, feel free to contact us. We are happy to engage and learn your specific needs and requirements. And we know that if we fit in your environment, we can forge a nice long-term relationship. So we are looking forward to that. So in the meantime, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.